All right, welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Conviction Fiction, the podcast where we tackle the real life challenges of life after incarceration. We break down stigmas. We explore ways to move forward with strength and purpose. I'm your host, Antoine Rivers, and I'm so glad that you guys are here to join me today. We got a special show for you guys today, man. It's all about healing after release. We're diving into what it means to rebuild your health in every aspect of your life, the spiritual, the mental, the physical, and emotional parts of your life. Each of these phases plays a critical role in creating a foundation for lasting change and growth after incarceration. They all do. All right. So, what I'm going to do is to talk about why this discussion is so important. It's because the journey of post release isn't just about getting back on your feet, man, getting a job and trying to, make some money, get a house. It's more about rediscovering who you are, setting some new goals, and building a life that honors your potential. This process can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially when you're navigating like systemic barriers, like, you might have to deal with parole, probation. You might have to deal with some personal challenges, like even with family members and even the expectations of others. Other folks might expect more of you when you just trying to like fill your lane. But healing is possible. And it starts with understanding that each aspect of your health matters and contributes to your overall success. So whether you're someone who's walked this road before, like some of the guests that I have on here today, a family member or friend offering support, or just here to learn, this episode will offer insights, challenges, and practical tools to help navigate the journey. So let's explore these four health phases together and learn how to turn challenges into opportunities for growth. So I just want to go ahead and just talk about the people that I have on today, man. I first have my a new guy. I just met this guy over the weekend. We were at an event here in Atlanta, and he was, there. And Michael Wolfhawk. I want y'all to give it up for Michael Wolfhawk. How you doing, bro? Michael he was incarcerated, bro, and was recently exonerated from a life sentence, a life without parole sentence. It's a little bit different. We talking about life without parole. They telling you ain't gonna get out. And he is a powerful voice for justice and reform, because I really wanted him on for the criminal reform thing, because like I said, we participated in the both sides of the gun event where he shared his experience and perspective on overcoming wrongful incarceration. My man was locked up for 19 years for something he didn't do. His story highlights resilience, the need for systemic change, and the importance of amplifying voices impacted by the justice system.
It's an honor to be on here to talk with you guys. I want to tell you that I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak so that I can try to get heard and help people.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on, bro. Definitely appreciate you being on, because it takes a lot of strength and stuff to even go through everything that you've been through. Now, I do want to introduce my other host. Well, I consider him a co-host because he'd here with me every week. This is Eric McDaniel. He's a regular on the show. This is my guy. Want to thank you. Let me just tell you about Eric. He's a regular contributor on this podcast and a passionate advocate for mental health awareness, particularly among those people that just got locked up or just got out of prison. Drawing from his own personal experiences, Eric he's very deep and focuses on shedding light on issues such as PTSD, anxiety, and the emotional challenges after reentry. Now, through open, honest communication, Eric empowers others to heal, grow, and reclaim their lives while breaking the stigmas surrounding their life after incarceration. His commitment to sharing stories of resilience and he just continued to inspire me. This is my guy. He continues to inspire listeners and foster support in the community. I want you guys to go ahead and give it up for Eric McDaniels with New Beginning Outreach. How's it doing? How you going, bro? You good?
All is well. I'm glad to be here.
All is well. All right, awesome, man. Thanks for being on the show today. So let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's go on and talk about what we're talking about today, man. We're talking about rebuilding your health in every phase. Now, for that, a lot of times rebuilding your health in every phase can, first of all, post release, we face challenges that many people don't face or never have faced in their life, right? We have a different type of mindset when it comes to challenges and mental health and stuff like that. We tackle all that on this podcast. But what I want to ask you guys is like, there are key focuses, especially when it comes to spiritual health, because we're going to go into all four phases: spiritual, mental, physical, and emotion. But let's start with spiritual health. Okay. How can you refine your purpose? Or because I mean, even with Mike, I want Mike to go first, and then Eric, you can come back. But like, if you have some type of spiritual connection and you locked up like Mike was for 19 years for something you ain't even do, you can easily give up on God. You can give up on a higher power. Like, why they put me through this? Mike, tell me about some spiritual reconnecting. How important is your spiritual health?
Well, I stayed in the Bible a lot of times and read backwards and forwards and tried to apply it to my everyday life, but it's hard because, I was praying to be home. Like, why are you sending me through this? Because my situation is a person came and shot at me twice, and I shot back in self-defense. But Georgia didn't have self-defense at the moment. So the situation is so crazy that the lead detective withheld evidence to make sure that I was found guilty. But he told a person that gave him the gun to shoot at us, that seen everything, not to come to court. And then a witness that was in the house came to court saying something totally different from what happened. And it got to the point where I've always had a sense of humor my whole life. And I just tried to laugh my way through situations to keep from crying. But at the same time, every morning I woke up, I used to say, God, why we still going through this? Like it was bearing on me, like, heavy. And my main focus a lot of the time was my father, because that was like my best friend. And a conversation we had, he felt like he didn't raise me correctly. Like he failed me and him. So I just told him, just bear with me and I'll be home.
Right.
And that was always my thoughts. And when my dad died, it did something to me, because that's all I ever prayed for.
Right.
Keep my
So when you
father.
talk about,
Okay.
I'm sorry, bro. So when you talk about your dad died, were you incarcerated when he passed, or?
Yeah, I was
Or
incarcerated. And the thing
okay,
was, that was my only prayer. Keep my dad alive and healthy so that I come home and make him proud of me.
right.
I accepted my situation where I was, because ain't nothing I could do about it, except for keep fighting. I wasn't going to beat myself up, no, like sit in a room, cry. I didn't even cry. I cried one time. That was when I thought about how I left my mom and dad out there.
That's something else, man. So when it comes to reconnecting with your spiritual side after release, Mike just basically was saying, like, it was tough, bro. Like, you have to be able to put a lot of stuff aside, because when you have people that you're losing, your loved ones, people that are actually driving you to keep the course. You know what I'm saying? So I want to ask you, Eric, what was forgiveness?
What you can't forgive, you can't heal. That was big. My story is similar in some degrees and not. I was wrongfully convicted and sent to prison. But I always say I have done things in my life that was worthy of prison. Uh, in coming home, you know, I knew I had to forgive. I knew there was a. Let me start with really what spiritual health is. It's having a set of principles, values, and beliefs and morals that give you a sense of meaning and purpose. So my incarceration, uh, I understood uh, to a greater degree now, but back then I knew God enough to know when I was going through my trial that nothing could happen to me unless God allowed it. Uh, and that peace allowed me to continue to move forward. Um, every day was a day that I had to embrace my God for my peace, to be able to take care of my family and all of those things. And so that gave me something to trust in that was greater than myself. Um, 2 years prior to me getting incarcerated, I gave my life to Christ. And so, that was the great decision I could ever made. And there I was confronted. Can you believe now? You incarcerated. Things, the prayer that you prayed for exoneration didn't happen. Every man's faith is going to be tested. So it was at that place that you really find it, from my perspective and my belief, that God is all you need when God is all you got. And so that held true to me. Being able to every day put my faith and my trust in Him to do for me what I couldn't do for myself, as far as my daughter, my mother, or my brothers. Is it a challenge to test your faith that here you are and incarcerated? But it was in that place that I really found out that God was really all I needed. Even in prison, God can give you peace that surpasses understanding. So my spiritual walk really increased in prison, that really prepared me when I got out. Was able to see greater works that He was doing while I was in prison. So when I got out, I knew to continue to trust Him. Getting out and having a new beginning of starting all over with job, place to stay, getting acclimated back to society, all those things. My spiritual health meant so much because it allowed me to operate from a place of peace. It allowed me to operate from, uh, gave me direction. It gave me a moral standing,
You
to
got
be able
Tanner.
to function.
All right.
So
All right.
go
I don't
ahead.
mean to cut you off. I don't mean to cut you off. We got our another guest. Terrence just joined. He said he was at the house. Now I think Mike, you met Terrence. Y'all was on that panel together.
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
was out there together. We came across me, Mike, and everyone. We met up last weekend. And let me just tell you about Terrence, guys, because I know y'all are excited to be on here. We talking about the spiritual and the mental health and the physical health and emotional health of coming back from like post incarceration, right? But Terrence, let me just tell you about this guy, man. Terrence is from Atlanta, Georgia. He's born and bred. Dr. Terrence Berry, a dynamic force of transformation and hope. His personal journey is a testament to the power of resilience and purpose. He is a serial entrepreneur. I don't know if you guys know what that means. Serial. He always doing something. All right.
Always doing something.
Always working. So not only that, but he's a fitness trainer, ordained minister. He was formerly incarcerated, but now is cultivating the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs. Through his nonprofit Focus 21 Foundation. We're going to highlight that and make sure you guys can get links to see what they're doing over there. They are mentoring kids and young adults to 24 through health and wellness. So I want you guys to go ahead and welcome Dr. Terrence Berry. Y'all give it up for him, man. How you doing? Grand Rising, man. All right, so I know you joined a little bit late, man, but Eric was going in. He was talking about the spiritual health of like what because this episode is about the holistic approach to being able to heal yourself, especially after incarceration. And the first thing we talked about was spiritual health, because reconnecting with your spiritual side after release is often about finding a sense of purpose, inner peace, and connecting to something greater than yourself. And then Mike was sharing his story. And, you know, Mike's story is a little bit different from a lot of our stories because Mike was wrongfully convicted. And we got into talking with Mike about how it may have been difficult for him to keep his faith when it's not tied to religion. It's basically about what gives your life meaning. And if you believe in a higher purpose, him starting with quiet reflection, maybe journaling. I don't, we were getting into that, but losing your faith and then regaining it when you are basically back into society. So I just want to introduce you guys because all of us are now here now. I'm so glad, bro. I didn't think it was gonna happen. I really did. I was like, good Lord. I'm like, all these folks everywhere, people picking up chicken wings and people riding around and
I
getting
don't even eat chicken.
yeah, man. Yeah. So go ahead, Terrence. We'll hear a little bit about you, bro, and what you are doing over at Focus 21.
Oh man, my name is Dr. Terrence Berry. I became Dr. Terrence Berry earlier this year. This has been a very impactful year for me in my personal growth. I have a foundation called Focus 21 Foundation. Focus meaning follow one's course until successful. 21 being not only my football number, a number that I'd inherited from Deion Sanders, but also understanding it's a spiritual number. It's the number of breakthrough. This foundation was given to me by God Himself in a dream in 2015 when I was incarcerated. Can't remember where I was incarcerated at, but anyway, throughout the dream, there was a very heavy-set black woman who reminds you of a grandmother. I never really had a grandmother, but she reminded me of a grandmother, and it was all these kids everywhere around. It was all these kids everywhere around her. I apologize. It was all these kids around her, and she was passing out these letters, like these little cards. They were folded up, and every time somebody would receive one, they would go crazy. So anyway, when I walked up to her, and she gave me my card, and I opened it up, it said Psalms 9 and 1. So when I woke up out of the dream, first thing I did, I picked my Bible, Psalms 9 and 1. I will praise the Lord with my whole heart and tell of His marvelous works. And after I meditated on that period of time, God hit me with the foundation. He gave me, it was clear, like this is your purpose and this is your training grounds. So it made me, I've already had gotten to the course of changing my life around while I was incarcerated. But I really gave it up, man. From who I was and how I was, man. When I got incarcerated, man, I really made a major change, man. And the crazy thing is I never been in the game. God covered me everywhere I was. And throughout this process of being incarcerated and having this newfound purpose, my reading went through the roof. Like I said before I left, I didn't read as much. But when I got incarcerated, I read over 300 books, and I can count on hand how many novels I've read. Everything was about self-growth, which put me in a position like, man, when I get out of here, man, I got to do this. You know what I mean? Never had a day to leaving. And God made it to the point where, and that's what I've noticed what He'll do in trial and tribulation. He will make it to where you're the only thing, He's the only thing that you can focus on. And that's how that transpired. When I came home, they told me that I wouldn't be able to go into schools. I wouldn't be able to go to prison. I got a life sentence, drug sentence. It's so much I wouldn't be able to do. From the point that I came home, man, I entered the school system within 2 months. 5 months from then, I was going to prisons. And mind you now, I'm not on any volunteer list. But what I am is anointed to the point where God put everybody around me to call me, and I never had to call anybody. The nonprofit from that point on, I ended up maybe a year later going to UPS, man, and that's when my first funding came into play. Everything I love, 500 people in line when I was going up to UPS, and I'm the only one came in a suit. First thing I got when I came home was a suit. So when people ask me what's the first thing you do, once you get with your family and loved ones, whoever you got, you need to go get you a suit. Forget some J's.
He said get a suit, guys. He said get a suit. How many suits you got, Eric? How many suits you got?
Probably 25.
You got 25 suits. How many suits you got, Mike? You got one. That mug sharp though. It's sharp though.
Hey, I can make that 6 suits. I can interchange that to make 6 suits, changing jackets, shirts, and all the above. You know
right. You got to be able to do that. I seen on I forgot who that was. I think it was Steve Harvey or something. He was like, you get you a tan jacket, a black jacket, a white jacket, blue jacket,
and black and blue.
Right. You can just flip that thing around like
you can make things
8 times different ways. Yeah, but like that's what we're going to talk about today, man. Like those journeys that we're facing, because post-release we face many of those journeys, including mental journey. We talked about the spiritual journey. We kind of hit on that. We're in, one of our panelists, even today, he had to deal with having to refine his faith. And I really don't want to go into like the mental health part of it, because like refining your faith is vitally important. For many of us, we didn't lose our faith. Let's go, Eric. Have you ever lost your faith?
I didn't lose it. Being honest, there were times I questioned it. Being incarcerated, there were times I questioned it. Lord, do you really hear me? I'm here. But that was the backbone of my journey while I was incarcerated for those 7 years.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of times you find God is all you need when God is all you got.
Yeah. So going back to Mike, I know Mike, he was found not guilty after like serving 19 years. And that's like for the focus of this segment, like being able, how did you refine your faith, Mike? Or did you ever even lose it?
Well, I'm still trying to figure it out to this day. I'm starting to believe that I'm here to break other people out too from that same situation. But similar to what Dr. Beard was saying, I came up with something to try to help the community as well, but mine was different because I was at trial and I seen the victim's son. And regardless of everything that was going on, my mind was on, he got to grow up without a parent.
Wow.
And then from that point on, I told myself that I was going to start a nonprofit called Young's a Gate, because Young is the victim's last name.
Mm-hmm.
And the gate means bridging between two things. What I'm saying? But I haven't really got into it yet because I've been so hard to try to get my footage together as far as like establishing, having things like a home, vehicles, sense of direction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it, man. Like we encourage for any community spaces like church, mosque, or meditation groups where you can connect with others who share your journey. That's very important. I mean, where it's not I personally, I'm a follower of Christ, but I mean your journey may be different from mine. I've met people that were following, Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism throughout my journey. I was locked up like 14 years, and I've seen everybody from all over the world, all over the country. So sometimes setting aside time each day for practices like basically gratitude, prayer, or mindfulness, that's across the board. That's across the board, right? So to focus yourself and focus on your personal growth is very important, no matter how you do it. Spirituality is a personal journey. So give yourself the grace to explore what feels authentic to you. All right. So we got a lot of different we got a lot going on today, man. And I appreciate it, man. But I really want to go into the
I want
mental.
to touch another basis, right? When you were saying spirituality,
Okay. Uh-huh.
I was locked up so long, man. I studied like almost every religion. Not to study it, to become part of it, but I wanted a better understanding on how they see God and what was the truth behind it. Like I've looked up Islamic, Yahweh, Buddhism. You know, I was raised a Christian, but it was something that I wanted to see what had similarities and what was everything built off of, like the base.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What do you say your faith is now? What is your faith?
You know, I'm a Christian because I believe
Okay.
in Jesus, but I still have questions. You know what I'm saying? Like, still trying to wrap my head around certain things. To like, how could he be born without a dad?
Hey, look. I'm gonna hook you up with uh my doctor Terrence Berry. I'm gonna hook you up with my guy Eric McDaniel, because I mean, when it comes down to it, it's all about your choice, right? It's your spiritual journey, right? So forgiveness is a cornerstone of that spiritual healing. I mean, if you think the folk lied to you or whatever, if you think they lied to you or whatever, like, learn to forgive, especially after incarceration, because when it comes down to it, man, it's about your personal spiritual door. If we look at, I think religion for me is that constant searching for truth.
Mm.
I'm just stop right. Spirituality is the
Hold on.
constant searching for truth. Okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah, look at that, because we got to distinguish those two. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it. So
Right.
spirituality is your oneness between you and the Father. That's something that everybody yearns for. Religion is a set system that was put in place to control the masses. So remember when Jesus was interacting with the people, they was under Judaism, right? He came to fulfill all those laws, not to change them, but to break people from their bondage of a religion. And he told people what they never have heard, because they was always told that the Father was inside of temples. Jesus said God is in this temple, right? When you understanding what's really transpired from the religious standpoint, and I'm gonna tell you what brought a lot of this together. I do vision boards, I do goals, and my goal has always been to go to Africa, go to Egypt. You know what I mean? Just like you all studied everything, Nuwabian, 5%, Drew Ali, all the above. You know, that was I was the same one seeking knowledge. When I just went to Egypt, oh my goodness, man. Let me tell you something. When you see them hieroglyphs, when you start really looking at the base of where all this religion come from, they got the Bible from the Ethiopians. Ethiopians have 88 books. They broke the Bible in pieces where they could control it. Martin Luther, Constantine, all the above, King James, all the above. They broke it down to control the masses. They left the books of importance out. A lot of the book, all of them is important. A lot of the books from Enoch, blah, 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 blah. Right. So why do they do this? Because it's a certain level of connection that you're going to receive. And those questions that you have, they will be answered in a lot of ways when you get to the books. Because you got to think about it. The Bible is nothing but a compilation of civilizations and their relationship with God, from the Samaritans, the Egyptians, the Atlantics, all those scrolls that they found in those caves in Ethiopia. They're all the truths. So tell me how the beginning of Genesis is also in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Egypt, right? Mm-hmm. So all that stuff is a puzzle for you to get back to your oneness. You can't tell me that.
I already know.
So
I already know, bro. I appreciate
can't
you.
tell me that these monks who believe differently from us, who live this disciplined life, don't have a chance at eternal life because they don't believe like us. You know,
Yeah, and that's what they said. Even with Hinduism, their apple, their tree was an actual banana tree, which is like really weird to me how all of them tie together. But for me, it's like what we talking about, the religion and the spirituality part of it. Like one of the biggest steps for people that are coming out here, because that's what we're focused on, like being able to successfully be out here, right? One of the most important steps is being able to forgive yourself. Now, if you've used religion, spirituality, or whatever, that is the hardest step, to forgive yourself, especially when in a situation like Mike's. Mike said that his dad was one of his driving forces of coming home, and he passed on, right? So how do you forgive yourself? Being able to acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, and then remind yourself that you're more than your past. Because no matter, I mean, we're talking about spirituality and being able to find yourself in through religion or through some type of connection with God. But how did God touch you for you to help, for him to help you or her to heal yourself?
Well, I would say, I say this all on the podcast. My incarceration was not a suffering or injustice as much as it was a closer avenue for a high walk with God and myself. Uh, you can't heal what you don't forgive. Me having a greater understanding of who Christ was, gave me a point of reference to who I was. I didn't know who I was. What it allowed me to understand why I was created, what I was supposed to be doing, who I was, and it allowed me to understand that my life was never to be lived independent of Him. So, those aspects, it gave me a greater understanding to be connected with those around me. It gave me morals and values, you know, those things it did for me. So when I got out, I was anxious to hit the ground running because I knew who I was as a kingdom citizen, as a child of God. I like what my brother broke it down about how religion controls. Uh, yeah, I'm a firm believer Christ is my Lord and Savior. But He didn't just save us to not go to hell. He also saved us to be in relationship with God. Right. And so for me to understand that my life was not to be lived independent of Him, that He was to be, the head of my choices, of my future. That was a plan and purpose that He created me for before the foundations of the world. And so that gave me a point of reference when I got out to continue to allow Him to lead and guide. Uh, we talked about in the last podcast about the man in the mirror. Yeah, I could look at the man in the mirror and look at how my choices, that I was my own enemy, thinking independent of God. And I truly believe the word of God is inspired by men through the Holy Spirit. And I take that seriously because that has been profitable for me. Outside of that, my choices and decisions on my own led me to be unprofitable. And so, those are the things that when I got out looking for a job, He made a way. You talking about forgiveness or the stigmas that we deal with of post incarceration, of being an ex-felon, or having to check the box, or looking for places to stay or work, or being back involved with family. All that is contingent upon you having to forgive yourself. God is a God of new beginnings. And He gives a beauty for ashes. And as time goes on, I realized that nothing was wasted. Though I wouldn't have chose prison, I can be able to see the good in it. I can be able to see that it allowed me to come to an end of myself and to continue to seek Him to lead me and guide me in the purpose in which I was created for, which led to the outreach, which led to a greater understanding of why I'm here today. I heard somebody say that, how can you have peace in prison or joy in prison? I experienced joy in prison. I experienced peace in prison. The God I serve, He gives peace that surpasses understanding. And so, not
you know how I do. You already know how I do.
Go ahead.
You already know how I do. Man, that was the toughest part, to find peace in a world of chaos and confusion.
Mm.
That was the toughest part of my life, bro. And I'm just going to share that with you because it's all too easy to make peace with chaos and confusion that when it's all surrounded by you. And that was like really tough for me. I don't know about any of the listeners or any of y'all like experience like what I did, like as far as prison, when it comes to keeping my focus, trying not to like hurt nobody or get myself hurt while I was locked up. You know what I'm saying? So, like, looking around me and seeing all of the stabbings, rapings, robberies, all those conniving things that was going on, bro, it was extremely difficult for me. I ain't saying for what like other people went through, but to make peace with it, because I ain't gonna lie. After a few years, I said to myself, dang, I know them folks ain't fighting on the other side of the yard because now they're gonna close down the thing. We can't even go outside. We can't even go outside to play, man. We can't even go to the weight pile. We can't go to this because them stupid dudes down there done did. You know what I'm saying? So making peace with that was not for me easy because I didn't think it was normal. But what has happened is, and that's why this podcast is so relevant, is because we have conditioned ourselves in a world of chaos and confusion. We have made peace with it and like, hey, guess what? It's all good here.
Well,
It's
can
all
I
good.
share?
Let me.
Go ahead.
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think people can have peace in an environment until they have peace with themselves. I
Mhm.
think when I reflect on being incarcerated or just being out here now, it's very hard for people to experience peace because they don't have peace within themselves. People will either get in a relationship and use that I need you to be my peace. A person can't be your peace. A place can't be your peace. You got to first have that peace within. And then you can be in any environment and have peace.
Hey, I think that goes back to that whole because I'm a biblical person, like, going across Jesus. He was on a boat and it rocked and rocked and rocked and he slept. He slept the
Chilling.
whole time, chilling. And I think that's what I think all of us had that kind of a chilling moment when we were on that little slave ship boat or whatever. We're on that little boat. We were
Definitely
chilling.
slave ship.
I'm, I'm not not to, not minimizing, but I firmly agree with the brother was saying. There's an African proverb that says, "If there's no enemy within, the world can do you no harm."
Facts.
And so there's a scripture that say, "He that keeps his mind stayed on me, I will keep him in perfect
Perfect
peace."
peace. Mhm.
It took me in the midst of the chaos and all of the things that goes along with prison to keep my mind focused on him. Spiritual health is so important because you
Absolutely.
learn in there as well as out here. We get up every morning, we shower, we put on our clothes and we
Yeah.
freshen up.
What about the mental health though? Like, because
Listen,
we talking about when you get out,
yeah, but this is
the
the thing.
mental health.
Spiritual wholeness, spiritual health is so important because your faith is the greatest thing that's going to be tested every day. Your faith. You can have the car, the home, the clothes, the money in the bank, but every day our lives are determined by our faith. And so spiritual health is so important because I have to make sure that I'm in a good place, regardless of what goes on around me, because the brother said it has to come from the inside. There's some things that every individual that comes out of incarceration really has to work on for wholeness. That is the spiritual, the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the social. But it all starts with the spiritual, because the spiritual allows us to be able to have a point of reference and how to go about obtaining the mental health. The spiritual allows us, as far as the mental health, to really understand the forgiveness. Uh, Being in an environment or having to look at the man in the mirror and understand that I have to forgive because I have been forgiven. I
Right.
have to forgive because I can't heal if I don't forgive. I'm letting things live rent free in my heart and in my mind, because we compartmentalize a lot of times when we're incarcerated. When you get to the mental health, I was reading a stat that says 1 out of 5 Americans suffering with mental illness, 1 in 8 in the world. And it's really, they have a thing called PICS. It's called post-incarceration syndrome. It's not in the DSM, but there have been a lot of studies that says when you come out of a violent atmosphere, you come out of
it's a traumatic thing. And I
Yeah.
mean, let's just talk about it. Post-release, many individuals face significant mental health challenges due to
Right.
the stress of reentry and their lingering effects of the incarceration. Some of the biggest things that include, like, basically, you're adjusting to freedom. You're basically now having to navigate the sudden shift from a structured environment from one end to the other, from your day beginning to the time you go to sleep, to one that's going to be requiring your self-reliance. And that can be overwhelming, like from structured to just being self-reliant on yourself.
Yes.
Then there's the stigma and isolation. Isolation. The fear of being judged or rejected often leads to feelings of shame and loneliness. Like, I used to go to parties when I first got home, and I mean, after 14 years, people like wanted me around because they were happy to see me. They ain't seen me in a long time. They're like, hey, let's go chill with you. And I would feel like awkward around them phone. Like, man, I don't know y'all like that. First of all, y'all ain't seen me nothing on my books. I'm just, because that's what we do here. We get away that whole fiction around incarceration. People think about that. There's feelings of shame. Why should I even want you to send me money or take care of my books and stuff and feel loneliness? And then there's some unresolved trauma from incarceration. There were people that were abused. I ain't never been abused, thank God. You know what I'm saying? We'll talk about it on another episode, like how we had to put up a certain aura or we had to live a certain way in order to not become another victim, because we were victims because we locked up. But you can get doubly victimized in the prison system, right? You got abuse, you got violence, or the constant need. Like what I felt that it was a constant need for me to be hyper vigilant. I always felt that it was a constant need to be hyper vigilant, and I would like try to ease it or soften the blow with like spirituality and like read a book or like we can get better, right? But it was always hyper vigilance, always hyper vigilant. Then you got depression and hopelessness. We ain't gonna talk about how we thought about how we're gonna rebuild a life and finding a house or finding a job or any of that, especially after years. It can lead to feelings of despair. And with limited access to mental health resources and a strained support system, I want to just ask y'all. I'm gonna ask y'all as a group. I'm gonna go around the room. So we ain't heard from Mike in a minute, but for real, like, what are you think are the biggest mental health challenges once you face, like, when you get out? What's the biggest mental health challenge you might face?
Well, I was kind of different because as soon as I got home, like my last 2 family members died back to back, and my sister died 2 weeks later. My mother died. So on top of trying to figure out how to get established, create an avenue for me to make some money while I won't have to get in trouble, take care of myself, I had to figure out how to deal with their loss and burying them at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then,
PTSD, like that's, I mean, anxiety. That would make me like the most anxious person in the world. First getting out, and then my phone. That was one of my biggest fears. I don't know if y'all ever dealt with like that. I know me and Mike talked earlier prior to going on, but like one of my biggest fears, like losing my folks when I was locked up, because I didn't know when they were gonna let me out. I was like, dang, am I ever gonna see these folks again? Ever? That was a challenge for me. That was a big challenge for me. What about you? Who I said? Like Terrence. What was the biggest mental health challenge that you face post release? If there was any, it might have not even been one.
It
You know what I'm
definitely
saying?
it definitely was, man. I think for me, even where I'm at now, dealing with the emotional damage. When y'all speak about people dying, my daddy died while I was incarcerated. That's the only close person I had. My mom died when I was 13. She had a stroke in my arms. So coming home and just not feeling really connected to anyone. And to this day, when I go out, it's business. I don't do clubs. All the stuff that I did once before, I don't do it, because I still feel that it's been 6 years. I still feel very much disconnected to society in a lot of different ways. My biggest challenge was winning my daughter. I left my daughter was 3. I came home. She's 12. She's now a law student in her first year freshman at Howard. But it's still a lot of emotional damage in between us right now. My biggest thing wasn't necessarily about the housing and things. It was where I'm at mentally. Just less than an hour or so ago, my queen was telling me about, I'm starting to get it now. You're very defensive. A lot of things that you had to take on, the persona you had to take on, as y'all was saying earlier, and when you're incarcerated, it doesn't go away when you just come home. I know this because if y'all know Omar, man, Omar had this talk a week ago. He was like, I've been home 17 years, man, and I'm still dealing with these particular behaviors. It doesn't, once you have lived in that jungle for so long, coming home, putting your guard down, trusting people is not the easiest thing to do, man. And I'm not saying we can't heal from that pain, because every day I'm trying to find a way to heal. I was gonna show you all. If y'all don't have this, man, this book has been phenomenal, man. Emotional Intelligence. It has been phenomenal, man. I'm just blown away because I'm realizing how much emotional damage I'm having. I realize how much most people, I would say 98%, have emotional damage due to being incarcerated, post-incarceration, and no one really, there's not a platform really to discuss it or talk about it, because even when you go to therapy, I'm a big fan of therapy. If your therapist hasn't been down the road that we've been down, you really can't understand. You can read all the books in the world, but until you go in that jungle, you're not going to understand the emotional damage that's there. And I don't want to say it's permanently there, but it's definitely in stitched inside of the thought pattern, your behaviors, how you move, even from the point of people standing behind you when you're in public, or somebody saying something out of the way to you. Like, man, this thing it's tough, man. I'm never gonna tell nobody that you did 5 years, you did 20 years, and you need to get over it. It's been 10 years since you've been home. You need to get over it. It's been 6 years. This ain't something you just get over. This was a lifestyle for a long time. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that the hardest part is, the only people I can talk to is you all. No matter how much your queen loves you, if you have a mom, a dad, sister, brother, no matter how much your homie, they love you, you really can't understand this. And that's where I'm at 6 years later, coming home.
That's awesome, bro, because that's exactly like what this podcast is all about, bro, because that mental part of it, and Eric can speak a lot about this because he's big on it. Eric is one of those staunch believers of being able to understand, like, we suffer. It was a PTSD moment. It was a PTSD moment. There are the challenges that happen due to the stress of reentry and lingering effects of the incarceration, including all those things I talked about before, adjustment to freedom. Like you just spoke about being able to just walk in public and somebody's standing behind you. You know what I'm saying? That's a PTSD moment. If you feel like that old white lady behind you is going to harm you, or just the presence of that person behind you is potentially harmful to you, that's trauma. That's trauma. Rebuilding your life and finding stable employment and housing, all that stuff can like come and go. But when it comes to your social development, how you actually move and how you work in society, it boils down to like what kind of support that do you have. Um,
Big thing. That's big.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, PTSD and anxiety, they develop as a result of the high stress, often unpredictable, and sometimes tragic and traumatic environment of incarceration. We talked about hypervigilance, always feeling on edge as if like danger right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? We talk about flashbacks, like reliving some of those tragic events or traumatic events, sounds, smells, situations. Like to this day, bro, you cannot bring no blue magic hair grease around me. You can't do that. Bro, let me tell you about this, bro. Like when I first I'm gonna tell you, bro. Like I was on the top bunk at one of the places I ended up in. I was at Bibb County. Eric know about it. Bibb County, bro. They had put me. I had just got there. It was like in 90. I want to say it was late 90s. They put me on the top bunk, bro. Which is cool. I ain't got no problem with it. I can see everything, but I don't really want to see everything. You know what I'm saying? And the dude up under me, he was one of them guys. But I woke up in the middle of the night, man. I'm like, what the whole bed rocking, bro. I'm like, man, no, bro, no, bro. And I smell blue magic, bro. Like blue magic. I could never in my life. You know what I'm saying? And that's some of the traumatic stuff. Like people, I can go to the store right now. My wife be like, ooh, I remember my mama used to get this stuff for me. And I smell, I'll be like, hell no, get that shit up out the house. You know what I'm saying? That's traumatic. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. All right, so I often find myself, I don't know if you guys do it. Me and Eric have talked about it on PTSD episodes where he get into his thing, but like I sometimes have trouble sleeping. Like I'll wake up, like I have nightmares, like I'm back in prison, bro. But for no reason. I just wake up like I'm back in prison. I'm like, what the hell? And then it's more so like I ain't did nothing. It's more so I'm there, and the traumatic part of it is that I am in prison for no reason, and I'm trying to get home. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's why I always find myself explaining to people, like, or explaining to the guards, like, you don't understand. I ain't even did nothing, bro. I got a family, I got kids, I got this going on, I got work, I got a house, I got a mortgage, I got all this stuff going on, and they don't understand. I'm like, we don't care. We don't care. And I wake up screaming, like, oh, and my wife be like, you okay? I'm like, no, not really. No, not really. And these symptoms, bro, that you have can make it hard to trust others, or you can feel unsafe, which complicates relationships and daily functioning. Okay, so I'm going because this is my PTSD expert. I'm gonna let him go ahead and take the flow, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. My social skills, my anxiety. There was a time when, when I first got home, I really noticed my social skills, or even physical touch, standing too close, all of that. When I got out here, you got a different set of rules in there. You got the penitentiary rules, and it was like everybody out here was playing. So I had to kind of switch up the way I thought. I withdraw. Yeah, my circle still here today. I've been out since October 14th, 2006. My circle is still small, and I'm still in the healing process. The dreams are one thing. It's been maybe a month ago. I had a dream I was in prison, and I'm thinking, man, I done lost everything I worked for, my wife, my children, that anxiety. But when I woke up, you talking about a happy person. Listen, the dream was just that deep. Also, I think one of the biggest things for me in anxiety is keeping my life, I used to have a saying in there: buster free, sucker free, and sugar free. And I maintain that out here, keeping myself away from situations that would put me in a situation to hurt somebody, put me in a situation to go back to prison, or just to have an altercation that may lead to greater things. And so, I had to put my circle even smaller. The other thing was dealing with family members. You know, when you take the time out to kind of work on yourself, and you come back after missing family, and I've had my brother died when 18 months before I came home. I had my grandfather, a lot of people passed. And so I was just so happy to see everybody, but everybody's not necessarily going to receive this new person out. People have the old person mind frames when they see you. And so, that caused another set of problems when I got out. Uh, really working on myself and just open heart. I just want to love everybody after missing everybody. But because you worked on yourself, don't mean everybody else has also. And so that posed a set of problems when I got out. Um, the PTSD thing is real. I'm a firm believer that you cannot live in those environments and ever come out the same. I think the healing process is life going. I'm a big guy also is the doctor for therapy, self-help groups, and I like to read also. But you got to do the work. You got to put in the work if you want to get your emotional health in check, because our emotional health really determines our thought processes, how we deal with situations, how we view situations. And if you're not trying to be on top of your emotional health, it could allow people to go back in easy. It's one of the high markers for those that are in recidivism, your emotional health. And you can't really put it in anybody else's hands but your own to try to make the necessary changes or seek the necessary help, because there aren't a lot of avenues out here. I'm thankful for this platform to be able to address these type of conversations, because as men, a lot of times we suffer in silence and we don't get a chance to really talk about what we're going through. And even though it's been years since I've been out, I still have to try to stay on top of my game and check my mental health and my emotional health every day, because it plays a big part. I was sharing, you guys don't even know, I got out and went to this job. I was working through a temp service, and here it is. I go to the restroom and I see two white guys, and then when I walk out, it's like they said something. My insane thinking saying, my
You're
son.
ready to fight. You're ready to fight.
Look,
You're
so
ready to
I
fight.
went to work the next day. I had internalized it. So I'm walking to the break room the next day, and these two guys say, "Hey, you Eric?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they're like, "Look, I'm the plant manager, man. I want to hire you today. We like what you do. Go home today with pay. We're hiring you for an operator's position. Come in tomorrow for orientation." And so
Mm.
I'm leaving that situation, seeing how my emotional health and this prison mentality, because it takes time to get that out of your system. Believe it or not, it takes time. And for me, it's still an ongoing thing, because
Mm-hmm.
the trauma, I didn't have any major fights. I encountered a situation, my first time having a knife pulled up on me when I got to, I think it was Bullock. I was on the top bunk and I got down off the bunk, and we had some words, and dude pulled a nice piece of iron out. Well, it was good they moved him, because I didn't want none of that around me. The thing about looking at all of that and coming back out here, it's a different set of problems. But if you don't check your mental health, you could still be incarcerated in your mind and be out of prison.
And
You
most
know,
people are.
the world works
They
in a
are.
total ways, but it's not saying that even though you out here, you're not dealing with some insane things going on out here. And
Yeah.
so, your emotional health is key to
Yeah.
you move forward in life. And it's something that, man, I'm just proud of you even bringing up this subject, because I pray that somebody gets something from it, and it gives them an avenue to be able to think and hear some of these things these brothers are sharing, because it's a
Yeah.
lifelong process.
Yeah, it's basically the tip of the iceberg, especially when you have experienced this type of stuff. Especially we got brothers that been in and out, and some of them that were in and had no tools to actually live a life or be successful because they were hindered, whether it be through the systematic way that things are being done or just by choice. Right. I'm just good because one of the things we don't want to do on the Conviction Fiction podcast is like we want to acknowledge what we are, what we have done wrong. It's not a platform for people to say like, prisoners is just, they're good people too. We are good people, but we're not saying that anything that we've done should be overshadowed by what we're doing now. Right. We
Right.
want to give a shout out to the victims because, we're intertwined. It's like similar to the event that me, Mike, and Terrence went to the other day. It's like both sides of the gun, right? It's both sides. Like they're always victims when you get into this whole thing wherein there's a perpetrator and a victim, whether it's through violence or whether it's through drugs, whatever. You're hurting somebody, putting the detriment of society on your back, and someone's going to pay for that. Right. And we end up paying, with our time and our, being away from family and all that stuff. So it's important that we tackle the emotional challenges, the spiritual challenges, and even the physical challenges, because that's the next thing that I want to talk about. I see that Mike has dipped off again. I think Mike in a car. I'm just going to tell you, Mike somewhere in a car. All right. Which is fine, but when I'm on here, we kind of, I'm chilling, bro. I'm in my element. I'm talking about some real issues that affects like the people that I know and I love, because these are the people that I kind of let's like a lot of my development. Even though I came up in the church, like many of us came up in, I went off and started looking into my own spirituality. I looked at all these other religions and heard about the stories and blah blah blah. But then I made a choice. Because that's what I have the power to do, right? All of them have good points. I ain't knocking that one on, but this is what I choose Christ, right? This is what I do. I choose Christ. So going back to the spiritual and the mental health, we kind of tackle that. What about the physical health, right? There are some things that we have. How do you prioritize physical health when you have limited financial you have limited financial resources? What I'm talking about is like going to the doctor. I don't know if y'all came when I came home. Healthcare was off the chain. Like a physical was like $200-300 just to get a physical, like to get blood work, and God forbid I need a something to lower my cholesterol. But like, that's a challenge. Was oh, go ahead. I'm gonna let you go ahead.
Hey, you got to get to CMOS, man. Hey, I'm just not to interrupt you, just touch bases on what you just said. One thing that being incarcerated taught us, man, you don't have to have a gym, and you can make something out of the smallest element of what you have. For working out, we know we can get a little space and do our burpees, push-ups, sit-ups, or whatever. But when it comes to food, and because everything is poison or whatever, I think the biggest thing to understand, even coming from incarceration, because when I looked at the meat working in the kitchen and it said not for human consumption, then I come out here and realize that all the meat that they have out here is not really the meat that they say it is. Because I just seen a video where they got chicken bones, put it in the grinder, and they called it ground beef. So my point in saying that is restraint, fasting, man, that's essential. And if you're not able to do that, because once again, we got three brains, the one in your what? All the way up to your chakra area. Most people think this is the most important one, but that area, that abdominal area where the cravings come from, that's the most important one. So the body's definitely important, but I think we got to get to the point where we can fast and not let food be our God. Because if you allow food to be your God, that means you ain't gonna be living to eating to live. You're gonna be living to eat. Or then you get to the fact that medicine is gonna become your daily food. So I think what you said about Christ, I think the Christ consciousness is something that goes overlooked. Christ set us an example. He said, you will have greater powers than I have. You would do things at a bigger level than I have done things. So when you look at it, being physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally disciplined is everything. It's everything, man. You cannot eat all this stuff and you know it's harmful. You cannot go days and months and weeks without walking. I don't care if you don't do no exercise. You got to walk. You got to keep that blood flowing. All that stuff is important, man. We can't. And coming from where we come from, it's a lot easier to do than these people who've been out here. Because you know, in there, if you get sick, it's gonna be hell for you to go to the doctor. So if we made
they might transfer you. You might have to get transferred.
Come on, man. Come on, man. And what you said about coming home and seeing how high healthcare is, the big difference is if you really got to go, y'all bill me. I give y'all $10 a month, but you got to see me. You got to see me. I'm here. You got to see me. Now they ain't got to see you. And here you got to see me. I'd rather for y'all to bill me and have to go through that than for me to be physically in pain, hurt, or just not knowing about, because all of us seem to be over 40. You know, it's certain checks that we got to get done. You know, right. So yeah, man, the body is definitely, from my point of view, the body is important. In Focus 21, health and wellness is everything. Like, that's what we do with the kids, man. We teach them about hybrid foods. We teach them about fruits and vegetables and the importance of it, and the importance of actually eating organic stuff with seeds in it. Like, right. Because we had that time to really read, study, and be given the worst food in the world. And I want y'all to know something. Have y'all been to an elementary, middle school, or high school? First of all, the whole thing is set up like a prison. And
it's the same food, bro. It's the same food.
Man, it's identical, man. This is brainwash. So when we say we was incarcerated, they incarcerated out here too. In more ways than one. So right. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to change that narrative, bro. Because like y'all think y'all out here doing things like y'all eating the same beef patty. They got that. Y'all got the same beef patty. Our kids eating the same
and worse.
Beef patty at work. Right.
And worse.
And worse.
You know,
so that's the yes.
I'm on the CMOS too, brother. I agree with you. You know, I think one of the things don't really get talked about is that, you know, once you're incarcerated, you see the system for what the system is. Once you get out, you have a heightened awareness of the system out here, especially concerning the food. You know, the emotional, the spiritual, all of it is really one. It's called wholeness.
Right. Absolutely.
6 months after I got out, I was diagnosed with cancer.
No.
And so that led to some change. I had to go through the radiation, which was one of the roughest things. But, you know, it took me back. I was more conscious of what I put in my body, what I put in my gut. As I started studying on certain illnesses, I saw that a lot of stuff come from the gut, a lot of the processed foods. So I'm a big proponent of telling people about natural herbs. I'm a big herb guy. I love the berries. I'm a religious dude with the CMOS. But one of the things that I really just, after listening, is saying that, you know, once we see that the system out here is really not designed to help us, the healthcare system is not designed to heal us, but to keep a bill in our mailbox. You know, the doctor gives us prescriptions and all this stuff, but God gave herbs for healing. Yes, and so for me, that was like the light that went off. You know, certain things like burdock root, blood purifiers, Mexican sarsaparilla for good iron intake. We need
moringa.
Moringa. Listen, soursop kills cancer cells.
Let's go.
Ashwagandha. So what I'm saying is when we really get to the point to understand that this system that we live in, because America is really not a country, it's a business. That things are not designed for our benefit. You know, that's a greater prison out here. And really, you know, our medicine should be our food, and our food should be our medicine. And so when we talk about our physical health, we have to we have to take that in consideration to not look at the world's view, because all these processed foods, starches, high sodium, especially us as black men, you shouldn't be on blood pressure pills for 40 years,
Right.
and so to take the time out to read and to investigate for ourselves what would be more beneficial for us. The sea moss for me, like I said, every morning. Look, it's just a big part of my life, and it has brought some great changes in my life, as far as the inflammation in my body and other things. And so the physical help is much. I like how my brother said, you don't need much. Walk, push-ups, sit-ups, keep moving, because this is our life. We can't look for other people to define it. And a big part of our emotional, spiritual, and physical upkeep of our body really reflects upon our character. And so for all of us, man, it's something to keep on the forefront, getting out, because the spiritual and emotional really affects the physical. Depression, anxiety, all of these things has a great impact on our physical health. And
Yeah.
so,
And this is something that's not really talked about a lot, bro.
right,
It's
we
not really talked about.
compartmentalize, but it's basically one thing, and it's called wholeness, and we are called to wholeness. We're called to wholeness. We live in a country where we live to eat instead of eating to live.
Eating to live, man. And that's the last thing that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about some of the emotional impacts of like post incarceration, being able to deal with stuff. Emotional, like I'm just gonna tell you, we kind of sensitive. I'm speaking for all of us. We're kind of sensitive sometimes when it comes to certain things, because emotions are meant to be felt, not suppressed. So it's okay to feel, and it's okay to heal. It's okay to feel, and it's okay to heal. That's my thing. Like, so when it comes to the emotional part of it, I know, like with some of the relationships, one of the biggest things that I deal with emotionally is like the relationships that I would have with other people that were with me and people that were not for me. That's one of the biggest things that emotional health. Like, how can someone, or no, more so than that, for the people that we hurt, let me talk about those people. For the people that you hurt, for the people that you let down. I heard Mike was on earlier. He was talking about how he felt that he constantly had let his dad down, and his dad ended up dying while he was in prison. And, that was a whole nother situation. But how do you um, rebuild for those family members that are still there? How do you rebuild the trust with family and friends post incarceration? We can go either one. Someone just throw your
I,
hand up if you're ready. I
taking
see a hand.
accountability, taking
Okay.
accountability, taking accountability, taking accountability with those that you can, go to and make amends and apologize and take responsibility for your actions. But at the same time, with me, I don't dwell in that place. you know, I move forward. Once I take the responsibility of my actions and accountability, and I make amends, because one of the things is you can't live in that place forever and still move forward out here.
Okay.
And people will hold you to those places if you allow them to. And that's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying, because everybody's not going to see you as you see yourself. That's why it's called your journey. One of the greatest things about looking back on incarceration, you really see who's in your corner and who's not. Everybody can say they're a friend, but how many letters did you write? How many times you go check on my mom? How many times you check on my daughter? And so for me, it didn't create I wasn't angry about it. It just put things in perspective and what I need to do. Yes, make amends for those that we hurt if possible. Yes, but you got to forgive yourself. And that forgiving yourself is not that you stay in that place.
Mm-hmm.
You're aware of it, but at the same time, you build upon it to help build your character to move forward.
Okay.
Uh,
So let me ask Dr. Berry. Dr. Berry, what was how do you um rebuild? What are some ways that you found to rebuild trust with family and friends?
I definitely want to piggyback with the king, man. I definitely think accountability is first and foremost. Secondly, being consistent. It's one thing to apologize, but not to follow it up with action. So as I stated before, I think the person I hurt the most is my daughter, and it took me 3 years for her to trust me again. And the reason why she started trusting me because I was just consistent. I was accountable for the hurt that I caused and things of that nature there, but I didn't sit in it. But what I was consistent with pouring into her and making sure that at this particular moment, you're gonna know that I'm the best dad to ever touch this earth. I'm gonna be there for you every time you need me. And I think she noticed that her mom never had to take her to the doctor's appointment. Her mom never had to spend money on whether it was basketball, whether it was piano, or whatever it may be. Her mom didn't have to show up to every sport event because I was there front row. When she needed to be trained or get a personal trainer, I was there. Consistency. That's the biggest thing. When you come out of here, you got to be consistent, man. Anybody can apologize, but everybody doesn't apologize. But you got to be consistent in whatever you do. And I've learned, even just watching social media, the people who are most successful out here are the consistent people, not the most talented. Mm-hmm. Some of the people who are the most talented people are not very successful or just mediocrely successful because they're not consistent. You look at people on social media, these people are not even talented in any way, but they're consistent on making the videos. Right. So that's the biggest thing for me, staying consistent in what I'm trying to do. And when you do that, God is going to put all the right pieces to the puzzle.
Right.
Too much is given, much is required, right? And if you're not, you remember the parable of the talents. If you're not taking advantage of what I'm giving you, it'll be taken away from you and given to somebody who will.
Okay. Awesome, bro. All right, man. I want to. Yeah, sure, bro. I mean, this the podcast, man. Don't even do that.
I like what my brother when he talked about them talents. But if you use what you got, he's gonna give you more.
Facts. Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing about that consistency. And in that consistency, you can't look for others. You have to get up and move. I encourage everybody. Look, you got to move. It's the movers and shakers that make it happen.
Hello.
Not, don't sulk. Don't get depressed about what you may have done in your past. You know what? You got a whole new 24 hours if you blessed to open your eyes. You got another 365 days. The greatest thing about God is that, as time goes on and you stay consistent, he'll give you the eraser to erase and create a new narrative. It's easy to say what I used to do or what I've done, but what I'm doing now. And like my brother coming home to my daughter, that was the hardest part. And for a short term, I kept trying to make up with money and things and show, this new me, but at the same time, apologize for what I allowed her to go through. Because when we get incarcerated, it's not just us, it's our family members too. And there is a debt of gratitude for knowing that people have sacrificed paying their bills to send you money, to come visit you, to stand in a line and get searched down just like you're an inmate, just to, they allowed themselves through their love for us and the compassion for the situation that we were in to subject themselves to that, just to come to see me, to know what my mother had to go through on a visiting yard was a terrible thing. And that should be enough to encourage anybody to do better, than not subject their family members to go through that. But I won't just say you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving. You can't stay in that other prison in your mind of what you've done or what you was accused of or your past. The front windshield bigger than the back for a reason, because what's in front of you is more important than what's behind you.
Absolutely.
I agree, man. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to take a moment to reflect on the key points we covered. Healing after release isn't just about addressing one part of yourself. It's about taking a holistic approach to rebuild your spiritual, your mental, physical, and emotional health. Each phase is interconnected, and nurturing all of them is essential for creating a strong foundation for your future. Remember, if no one told you, if you came on the Conviction Fiction podcast, reconnecting with your spiritual side can provide a sense of purpose and peace. Caring for your mental health helps you process trauma and manage the challenges of reentry. Physical health is about regaining strength and energy and taking care of your internal stuff by learning to, what they say, uh, eating to live and not living to eat. And that gives you the energy to face life head on.
Amen.
The emotional health allows you to rebuild trust, relationships, and resilience. So we are going to encourage you to explore the resources we've discussed today and seek out supportive communities, whether that's the reentry program, some of the stuff that we got going on in the city or around the world, a local support group, or even an online community. You don't have to navigate this journey alone. There are people and organizations ready to help, like Focus 21 and New Beginnings. We'd also love to hear from you. If you have your own tips, insights, or stories of post-release healing, we want to feature them in a future episode. Your voice can inspire and uplift others walking this same path. Share your thoughts with us on social media or through our website. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Conviction Fiction. And don't forget to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could benefit from it. Together, we're breaking stigmas and building a brighter future. Until next time, I want you guys to stay on. But for the listeners, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep moving forward. All right? Let me stop that recording.
I got to get
Y'all
out here.